Thumbs up. Okay, what else we got? Doing good? Okay, we got thumbs up all around. All right. So since it is March, we're going green today and talking about greens. And who here thinks they get plenty of greens? I know you do. How are we doing with our greens? Anybody need to have more ways to cook greens? Yeah, or use them? I am too. Right now, I'm all about the collard green because that's what I have mostly in my garden. So I put collard greens in my dish today. And hopefully when we come back in a couple weeks, I'll use some more collard greens when John and I do a little demo. So happy March, happy green. Wearing my green socks, of course. Okay, oops. It's also March is National Nutrition Month. So happy National Nutrition Month. I'm sure you all have been celebrating. So their theme this year is Beyond the Table. So it's talking kind of what they want is not just the foods we eat, but also the social component of it and different cultures and just kind of getting out of our normal box with food, I think. So that's in case you see things around. And we're going to be talking about greens, green food too, but mostly leafy greens. So I've got some up here, Esselstyn. For some reason, his first name is escaping me, but Dr. Esselstyn, he really pushes the greens. So we're going to just see a little clip of him. It's just 3 minutes where he talks about why greens are important and what he thinks you should do with them. But take a look at all these greens. Of those up there, what's your favorite? Broccoli. That's a good one. Asparagus, okay, which is on sale right now. It's been pretty cheap, so it's in season. Yes, I've been liking that. Yes, it is Brussels sprouts. Yes. Bok choy, okay. A bok choy is a good one that, I just don't get enough of that. But yeah. What else? Now notice what isn't really green that's on this list. Cauliflower. So it's a cruciferous vegetable. And that's why we like to get our greens is because they are cruciferous, meaning they help to fight cancer. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah.
There is purple cauliflower.
Totally. I like the purple cauliflower. I love the yellow cauliflower to make a soup that looks sort of cheesy.
Oh,
Yeah, I love, yeah. Other colors are just fine. They're still cruciferous. And the Brussels sprouts, cruciferous. The kale, cruciferous. Let's see. So in our dish today, we used cauliflower and collards, which, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get rid of. I have so much. And cilantro is in the ones we did today. Who likes turnip greens? Where, yeah, I like them. I love beet greens because you can eat the beet and the green, but I hardly ever can find turnips with the greens attached at like the farmer's market or at the store. Do you? They're always attached to the beets, but never to the turnips. I don't know why. Okay, so Ivan set me up here so that I should be able to just click right here and it's going to show our little video. Let's see. Thank you to Ivan for that. Okay. No, because that's actually a different little silly one. I decided not to go with. This was the one you told me. There we go.
So you already gave us your famous jingle about greens. Can you just review
So
why
this
are
guy's
greens so important?
interviewing
Why are you such a
Esselstyn.
huge proponent of greens, especially for people who have advanced heart disease?
Yeah, when I get somebody that comes in, they've got angina, they've got heart disease, they've got angiograms.
Oops, that was bad. So this is Dr. Esselstyn. Caldwell, that's his name. He wrote Reversing Diabetes and Heart Disease.
They've got heart disease, they've got angiograms that confirm they're loaded with plaque. I really want to give them the absolute optimum I can. And so in addition to going through the whole food plant-based nutrition we've talked about, this is a little extra that I started in the last 5.5 years. And I say to the patient, look, if you were able to somehow get your head inside that artery that is so filled with that plaque, you would see it is an absolute cauldron of oxidative inflammation. Therefore, we need antioxidants. No, don't go down to the health food store and buy a jug of pills that says antioxidant, because it doesn't work and it's going to be probably harmful. You're going to get your antioxidants from food. All right, what food? Food that is high in what we call ORAC value, ORAC, oxygen radical absorptive capacity. So that means if you're having raspberries and blueberries and strawberries and blackberries on your old-fashioned oat cereal, terrific. But nothing can trump the antioxidant value of green leafy vegetables. Therefore, I ask these patients, now this is, I tell them, look, this is where you know me as a bit of a taskmaster, but I'm told I'm not as mean as I look. And I need them to chew, never smoothies, never juicing. I want them to chew a green leafy vegetable roughly the size of their fist after it has been boiled in water 5.5 to 6 minutes. It's now nice and tender. Then they must anoint it with several drops of a delightful balsamic vinegar. Why? Because the acetic acid in the vinegar has been shown to restore the nitric oxide synthase enzyme contained within the endothelial cell that is responsible for making nitric oxide. And they're going to chew this alongside their breakfast cereal, again as a mid-morning snack, again with their luncheon sandwich, again mid-afternoon, again at dinner time, and I adore it when they have that evening snack of kale. What are they doing? All day long, they are basking and they are bathing that oxidative cauldron of inflammation with nature's most powerful antioxidants.
Okay. This
And
is amazing.
that is why literally with these patients with angina and chest pain, they do this and suddenly within days they see it being diminished and often it disappears. And I've got them hooked.
Okay, so what do you think about that? I'm going to try to get back to my slides now.
This is a metabolism killer.
Okay, that
This
wasn't it.
is a
Doesn't sound very appetizing to a handful of leafy greens.
I know. Well, and he says he wants you to cook them. He says like boil for 5 to 6 minutes. I never do that, but I do saute it up a little bit so it's soft. So I don't know if that's just to make it more palatable or what.
Like in a salad balance, right?
Yeah, totally. But I think he wants you to chew it because getting those enzymes starts up here. So that doesn't mean you can't put your greens in your smoothies. If you're a smoothie lover and you put your greens in them, that's fine too. I think that's a good way to get them. He wants it to start up here. That's why he's saying that. But he's also saying 6 times a day. I can't compete with that. Anybody?
No.
I can do 3.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. But I don't know, I'm curious. And his wife has a little video too, Jane. She's like the brains behind the food part of it. No, it's Jane and Anne. Anne's the wife, right? So she has different ways that she uses the greens and snacks and things.
Is he the no oil back doctor?
He is very low. Yeah, no oil for the most part.
And his son does the fire one?
Yes, the engine 2. His son is Rip Esselstyn, who does engine 2. So I love the premise. I love he works at the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Esselstyn does. And I think he's done a lot for heart disease. And I love the idea that we need to eat more grains. There's no argument we could eat more. I think if you think, oh gosh, I'm not eating 6 a day, I might as well give up. Don't worry about that. You just eat them as much as you can. And I think throwing them into everything when you can is fine. I like his concept that you should really chew them. That's better. But we all like our green smoothies or smoothies with greens in them that you can't tell. So I like him. This little link down here at the bottom, I won't show you that, but he does a little wrap of all these green names. It's kind of his signature. Okay, so why are we going to have greens? Well, like he said, they're rich in antioxidants. They have that high ORAC value, so they have a lot of antioxidants in them, beta carotene, lutein, anthocyanins. And as you mentioned, they're not always green. If they're purple, if they're orange, there's green under there somewhere. So that's okay. Most of our greens have folate. So when you think of folate or folic acid, you think foliage because that's in our greens. Iron, vitamins A and C, vitamin K. I'll have a little slide about the vitamin K in a minute. They seem to really have a lot of protection against chronic disease, which is why we should have more. Did you all grow up eating greens? All kinds of greens? We had spinach. Yeah, we had spinach and it was frozen.
Once we
Yeah, we were probably once a week too. Yeah, we didn't grow up with lots of different kinds of greens. I never had chard or collards or any of those kale until I was older. My mom never liked kale. I mean, to me, kale was what they lined the salad bar with. That's where kale came from. So I think if we didn't grow up that way, we just got to learn to do it and learn to enjoy them, hopefully. They've been shown to eat greens. When you eat greens, you have a 20% reduction of heart attacks and strokes for just one serving a day. Isn't that kind of amazing? One serving a day. And they've been shown to reduce our risk of cancer, especially those cruciferous ones. And I know it's Cancer Month, so I added a little slide for us. So I added a little slide on cancer too. They might help us with weight loss because they make us feel more full, like all fiber-rich foods do. So then we don't want to eat the junk foods as much. The greens have really been shown to help with our eye health too. Macular degeneration and glaucoma, they seem to be beneficial with that. And if you've ever, or you go to the eye doctor and they say, oh, take these supplements or this pill for your eyes, it has lutein in it, which is what we find in greens. It's got these nitrates. That's what Dr. Esselstyn was talking about. They turn to nitric oxide, which is associated with our lower heart disease risk and lower blood pressure. They're low in calorie density, meaning fewer calories per bite, but high in nutrition. So each of those bites has a lot of nutrition going on. And they do recommend you mix it with a little healthy fat to increase the absorption of all that good stuff. Like in a meal, you might have some nuts or seeds on it. You might have a little oil maybe on your salad. You might have some avocado or olives. That helps with absorption too. And he likes it with the balsamic vinaigrette or balsamic vinegar because that helps change the enzymes so you can get that nitric oxide even better, which I love to do. I love balsamic vinegar, so I pour it on absolutely everything. And if just those good things wasn't enough, they also are a good source of calcium, our greens are. So, but they can be high in these things called oxalates, which are in our plant foods. And so those might block the absorption of calcium and increase kidney stones. So we have to be careful about how much we eat. We can't really eat buckets and buckets. Now notice his 6 a day is only half cup servings. They're not really huge. So beet greens, chard, and spinach all are high in these oxalates. So I remember learning in school, and you probably do too, tell everybody to eat greens for calcium, but spinach, while it has a lot of calcium, you don't necessarily get it all because it's blocked with these oxalates. So get a variety of greens. So you don't want to just only eat spinach or only eat kale. We want to get a variety.
I've heard that you have spinach with lemon. Is lemon part of that? Getting the oxalates out?
Yes. So John's asking about have lemon with it. And yeah, I think that's just like having your vinegar. It's acetic acid. Mm-hmm.
That'll ease out the oxalates?
Right.
Okay.
So there's other plant-based calcium foods. So in case you're thinking, I don't know if I get enough calcium, which is can be a concern if you're following a whole food plant-based diet. If we're not really eating a wide variety of foods, but broccoli has calcium, some tofus, depending on how they create the tofu, if they're set with this calcium in it. Tempeh, tahini, which is the blended up sesame seeds, almonds, black beans, oranges, seeds, nuts and seeds, and blackstrap molasses all are good sources of calcium. And then because we're talking about cancer, we want to reduce our risk of cancer. I think Rob talked last week. I think there's going to be other cancer talks this month. But if we want to reduce our risk of developing cancer, we want to achieve a healthy weight and stay at it. And a healthy weight doesn't necessarily need to be, as skinny as we were in high school. Just needs to be maybe a healthy weight for you and maintain that weight. Being active, so sitting less. The diet is basically whole grains, fruits, veggies, and beans, high fiber stuff. That fiber helps reduce our risk of cancer. We do want to limit our fast foods. So the next ones are things we don't get to have too much of if we want to reduce our risk of cancer. So fast food and other foods that are highly processed, that have fat and sugar and starch isn't bad. Salt too, thank you. But starch isn't bad. It's the processed stuff. So eating whole grains is fine starch, but eating white flour starch is not. Be careful about red and processed meats. Those are known carcinogens, meaning they're cancer causing. Limit our sugary drinks. And that's coming out more and more about sugar. I think I've told you that when I was in school, they just said sugar really wasn't all that bad. It just caused cavities. And that's all we knew back in the 90s. Well, maybe a little of the 80s. So we want to be careful about our sugars and limit alcohol. And we talked about this last time, I think, or a few times ago. There seems to be no really healthy level of alcohol, especially for our brain health. So we do want to be careful about our alcohol, which I know for some of us, that's very sad. And then don't forget about green tea too. Green tea can be very cancer resistant. So who likes green tea? I cannot stand green tea. I wish I did. I keep trying to mix it with other kinds of teas. I wish I liked it, but it just tastes like grass. And this is why, because green tea is the mature leaves and they're steamed and rolled and dried, as opposed to others. So it tastes more like fresh leaves, and it does, which is why I can't stand it. But it contains this thing, this EGCG stands for a big long thing that I didn't want to even type out. But that seems to be the strong antioxidant, and so it helps to reduce our risk of cancer and inhibit tumor growth. So they really do push the green tea, and I just wish I loved it. Matcha, who likes matcha? Matcha's a thing. Yeah, I don't love that either. I wish I did. Good for you guys who do. So this green tea has anti-inflammatory, and they are looking into its effects on Alzheimer's or brain health too. So if you like your green tea, you just keep at it. Not only is it green, so it's green foods, but it seems it's super anti-inflammatory and cancer fighting. So we love that. These are other cancer fighting foods. I got this off the cancer website. So these are foods to include in your diet. It doesn't list things to limit. The things to limit are going to be our processed foods, our red and processed meats, alcohol, and our high saturated fats and salts and sugars. So take a look here. What cancer fighting foods do you love here? I kind of cut off the top. Sorry about that, but you can read the words. Garlic. Oh, see, that's a good one. Don't we just add garlic to everything?
Yeah.
Coffee, soy. Okay. There you go. We got kale. And we got really all our dried beans, high fiber, cauliflower.
Cauliflower bechamel.
Oh, cauliflower bechamel. That sounds fun. Okay.
Real easy.
Okay, good. I like that. All right. And we've got our tea on here too. And then we've got our whole grains. Well, anything that surprises you that's up there? I don't know, I'm a little surprised by coffee. Even though coffee's been shown to have a lot of really great health benefits, but it's not something you think of as a real health food. I remember a few years ago, the headline was, people in America get most of their antioxidants from coffee because that's what we drink the most, not because coffee's so super powerful, but it's because that's what we get more calories from. But these are just our regular foods that we talk about on a whole food plant-based diet all the time. And so these are the things we want to include: less processed, more whole, real foods. People are leery of the soy because in the past there's been some negative connotations related to soy, how it may be really start cancer or promote cancer risk. But really, when you look at the new research, that was old. So if your doctor's telling you don't have soy, tell them, look at or her to look at the new research, because it's really been shown to be cancer reducing, even for people who have had cancer. We hear this mostly with breast cancer, I know. So, but people who are continuing with their soy intake, even after they've had breast cancer, tend to have better effects and reduce their risk of recurrence.
I was surprised about green grapes. I know red grapes have the resin, but
Yeah, so green grapes too. You're right. Green grapes. Okay, so how much are you supposed to have of these greens every day? So they recommend 2 to 5 servings. I know Esselstyn says 6. If you do that, more power to you. But a serving is usually 1 cup raw or half a cup cooked. So if you've made greens before, you know they start out this big and then they shrink. So half cup really isn't a whole lot, but you can use up a whole bunch of greens. What's that green right there? It is chard. Yeah, I always like the rainbow chard. So you'll see the yellow stems, the red stems, the green stems. So yeah, that's chard. And if you're not really into greens, I think chard is a good like gateway into the heavier duty greens. It's pretty mild. Although I was talking to somebody today about collards and she said, oh, I just don't love collards. But to me, I think they're fine. She said she thought they were bitter. So I recommended that she cook them longer, like we talked about maybe a few weeks ago. Okay, so we're getting our greens every day, plus we're getting our cruciferous veggies. Now I put this up because I said greens are a great source of vitamin K. So we're thinking, yay. So it helps with clotting. That's what our vitamin K does. But if you're on Coumadin, you're trying to avoid clots. And so here, I just told you to eat a bunch of greens. And here you're on this medicine telling you not to clot. So it doesn't mean you can't eat greens. And I'm telling you, over the years, I've had so many patients say, you know, I can't eat vegetables because I'm on Coumadin, you know, and they just use it as an excuse not to eat any vegetable. But we can still eat greens. We just need to be consistent. So you don't have, you know, a big spinach salad and collards and everything one day and then nothing the next. We just need to be consistent, because then when they go in and you get your pro time, they can adjust your medicine to that. And your pro time tells you how quickly you clot. So don't use that as an excuse not to eat your greens.
It's the orange slices of the orange.
Those are apricots,
Right?
dried apricots.
Oh, right, that's good.
Yes, so these are our vitamin K foods. Yes.
That drug you mentioned, is that a blood thinner?
Yeah.
Coumadin, yes, sorry. Yeah,
That's
it's actually rat poison. It's also called warfarin. And so it seems to thin our blood. So especially people who've had a stroke or have had an implant of some sort, they give them that so that they won't clot. But there's a new one out, I think,
eloquence.
Eliquis, that you don't need to worry about that now. So, but I don't know if everybody's insurance covers it. This is old and tried and true. So I'm sure it's the cheapest one. And I don't know. I belong to Kaiser. I'm sure that's what they're giving everybody, but I don't know. But with Eliquis, you don't have to worry about it. So thank you for clarifying that. So let's think about ways to increase our greens. So I put the first one, and you know, over the years that I've known you all and been talking to you, people always tell me they have savory oats. And I always thought that sounded like the most disgusting thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I never wanted to. It took me years to have the nerve to try it. And now that I have, I'm kind of hooked on it. So basically you just cook your oats and you add a little different seasoning. Instead of adding your cinnamon and nutmeg and your blueberries, you add some greens and you add a little garlic or turmeric. Mine also, I put cardamom in that. So it has more of an Indian flavor. And it says stir greens in at the end of cooking time, but I don't even do that now. Now that I've done it, I just have my big bowl and I throw my half cup of oats in there, throw those seasonings in, throw a little nutritional yeast, throw the greens in, and I've been throwing edamame in mine also. And I cook it for 2 minutes in the microwave. And it's and sometimes because it's savory, I might have that for lunch, you know, and it's really quite good. So if you've been afraid to do that, give it a try because it's really worth it. And it took me years to get the nerve to do it. So I totally understand. Who else likes savory oats?
My daughter,
Anybody? She does?
yeah,
What does she do with hers?
she uses many of the same things.
Uh-huh.
She'll use leftovers, but she'll also use greens.
Mhm.
One thing we do is we take dried shiitake and grind them in the spice mill. So it's a shakeable powder, and then you shake that in with, so you get shiitake mushrooms instead of sauteing mushrooms or having raw mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
And it's really good.
So that's a good idea. So John's saying his daughter will blend up into a powder the dry shiitakes and then put that in there. So that's a good idea. Okay, I like that. Okay, what about just sauteing? You know, I've always got greens in the cupboard or out in the garden, it seems. And so I just grab some handfuls, I throw them in a pan. I use maybe a little water or a little spray like Pam or something. Although I just got this new pan that truly is nonstick. It's my first really nonstick pan.
Which one is it?
I got the Caraway
Well,
and it was $95 for a saute pan,
yeah,
but it is so awesome. So then you put I put lemon juice here, but nowadays I do put the balsamic vinegar on it. And you know, it doesn't have to be just plain old balsamic. You can get those fancy kinds that have all kinds of different flavors, which are so fun. And you may put a little salt and pepper on it. It takes a couple minutes. It's done. Well, and actually now I also do it in my cast iron. So that's a good one in my cast iron. And in case you didn't know, when you cook in a cast iron skillet, and you add a little like citrus or something like that to it, you're going to get a little more iron in your food. You're going to absorb your iron that's in your food better. So, and you get a little iron from your pan in a good way, not in a bad way. It sounds terrible. Like you're getting chips of iron. You're not doing that. Okay, what about quesadillas? Who here loves a quesadilla? What about people who aren't eating cheese? What do you do for your quesadilla? You use cashew cheese? Okay.
Yeah, black bean.
A black bean, see, that would be like a dip, or I'll do hummus on it or a white bean dip. And then chop some greens up. You can even mix that with the hummus or your cashew cheese or whatever you're using. And oh, there's my white bean spread, and fold it in half or cook it into a quesadilla. So you don't have to miss quesadillas. Now, soups or chilies are where I tend to do this the most. Even canned soup. If you love canned soup, you got a nice low sodium canned soup, throw a handful of greens in there. Or throw it in your bowl and then microwave it to reheat your soup. So that's a good way to get a little extra greens. You can hide it, which sometimes you have to do with the family, I know. So you can chop it up real small in your spaghetti sauce. And then nobody will even know. Okay, who here is good at kale chips? John is, I know. We've experimented with the kale chip here. I've not been good at it. John's really good at it.
it doesn't last in our house.
No, you just eat them that fast?
We eat them that fast. They sit up on the counter, and at the end of the day, we're done.
They're done. Okay, so here you go. So you can, some of the best kale chips, I think, are usually, they almost seem battered. And so this one is, you mix it with a little hummus, massage it, lay it on a pan and cook it for a long time. So when we did those here, John, that one time, low and slow is the best, right? Or-
Totally.
We did some in the air fryer. Leanne, were you here when we did that?
No.
Or somebody was here and we tried it. We tried it in the air fryer and it worked, but you need to go low and slow.
Yeah.
And I was looking up recipe. Oh,
You know, like the dehydrator on those little like the Breville things?
Yes.
That works as well, or-
dehydrator just really takes a long time. So low and slow is faster because I have a dehydrator and it always says, yeah, new your chips in there. But it takes a long time compared to what you do. I mean, it's already an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I was looking up recipes for collards and one was collard chips, which I've never tried. So I might be trying those this month. You can make a pesto with your greens. What's a traditional pesto?
Basil,
Basil,
Mm.
garlic,
pine nuts.
Parmesan, pine nuts,
Oh.
lots of olive oil, right? So you don't, and we've done that before where we've tried different greens in our pestos. So you throw them in a food processor and you can whip it up with whatever green. I never get the pine nuts because they're just too darn expensive. So I usually use walnuts. And then you can use a little nutritional yeast in there. What else? How do I make it wet? What do I do? Oh, avocado would be super fun. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, that would be good. I can't think what my recipe calls for. So, oh, tofu. It's right
Tofu,
there.
yeah,
Tofu
that's-
instead of oil.
I think that's what we've been doing when we make it.
Yeah.
Pesto.
And you do a great one. How do you do yours, Velma?
First of all, the beans.
Tahini. Okay.
Mhm.
And you use multiple different kinds of greens in yours, right?
Oh, yeah.
Usually about 15 pounds.
Of different things, because I use not just the big greens
Uh-huh.
that you talked about, but I use, the herbs.
Like parsley.
And even mint, I've even used echinacea leaves and, the leaves to sweet potatoes.
Oh, leaves to sweet potatoes. That's fun.
Whatever's green in my garden. that I
Yeah.
can use.
Okay, I like that. All right.
She brought some in.
I've had yours. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really good. Yes. And then you make some and you freeze it, right? So you always have some in your freezer. Okay, that's very nice.
But also instead of nuts, you can use some seeds. So like pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds.
Okay, so that's good. So instead of nuts or buying those expensive pine nuts, you use other kinds of seeds. Okay, I like that. Okay, so here's another thing. This is what I'm hoping maybe John and I will do next time is use collard green as a wrap because they're huge. So they make really big wraps. So there's your collard green there. Let's see what else. We got a kale. Got,
Chard could work
red
too.
kale.
That's a very soft one.
you know, chard. Yeah, you're right. Chard would work too. I wonder if you did chard, if you wouldn't even have to like dip it in boiling water first. Yeah. Okay, so we got lots of good things. I mean, you could scramble it up with your tofu, or if you're still eating eggs or egg whites, you could scramble it up with that. And you could use it as your salad base, any of your greens. And I really encourage you to do a bunch of different greens. And once Linda and I were working on a recipe and it said mescaline greens. And she said, what's that? And I said, I have no idea. And so I just said, it's just what it always says, but I use spring mix. And so when I looked at the spring mix, it is bunches of greens. So, and that's what mescaline is. It's, you know, maybe a few collard or chard or different kind of greens are in that spring mix, which I had no idea. So you can use that.
An extra syllable. I think it's mesclun,
Mesclin. Okay. Mesclin. Thank you.
not the mushroom.
Yes.
I saw that before Brussels sprouts are on there.
Yeah.
And I've shredded Brussels sprouts before and made like a coleslaw out of it.
Mhm.
When you're making tacos, that's like a really nice side thing as well too.
Ah. That is a good idea. Okay. So you're talking about taking your Brussels, shredding them,
Or just chopping them.
or chopping them up super fine and can use that in your tacos. I love that idea. Thank you. That's a good, I'm adding that before I show this slide next.
You can do that
Yes.
with cabbage too.
With cabbage too.
Yeah, I do that with bucky.
Uh-huh.
It's all this hot spicy stuff, and then you got this cold crisp shredded cabbage on top.
Did you bring duck buggy? to a potluck?
I did, and I thought it was mild, and other people felt it was burn your mouth.
Oh,
So, but
Okay.
it is, life is good with it.
okay. Okay, so here's other greens. I can't tell really what that says, but we're gonna eat our colors. So the more colorful, the better. Other green things would be your broccoli, your cabbage, your Brussels, cruciferous vegetables, and these are gonna be your cancer fighters. But then there's other green things. You got your split peas, you got your soybeans. And you got green peppers and hot peppers and chilies, good vitamin C. You got asparagus, celery, your green beans and zucchini, all good green things. Not all necessarily nutrition powerhouses, but still all really good. Then you got your herbs. So you don't want to forget your herbs. So I like how Velma says for her pesto, she uses different herbs because sometimes we think they do have to be like the big standard green, but those greens have a lot for going for them. So you got your basil, parsley, oregano, all of them. Got avocado, which happens to be another green food. And then of course we got our green M&Ms, which are not in the healthy section, but they are green too.
I think if you hit that okay, that will work, huh?
Will it?
No.
I don't know. Oh, it did. And I know I'm supposed to do something with this, but yeah, I don't know what else I can do. And this, do I move that up? I don't know.
Too late.
I blew it already. Okay, now green, we're talking about the foods, but also we want to talk about maybe saving some green. Who here thinks that eating healthy is kind of expensive? You do so. The students all raise their hands. Why is it so expensive? Yes.
As we record.
Yeah.
One thing.
Well, that could be.
Yeah, but like, it's just so they can benefit off of you not feeling well by giving you cheaper options. Maybe.
They do make the unhealthy food cheaper.
Yeah.
It seems like you're right. But when we think about a whole food plant-based diet, if we just stick to the basics, which is like beans and rice, which could not be cheaper, we can save some money. But I mean, you're right. If we're trying to buy organic, all our produce organic and things, it's expensive. I won't do it. I mean, I'll buy it when I can afford it, but you know, some of that stuff is just a little too expensive. And I can tell, I was thinking about John today as I was pulling out my craisins out of my bag that I get from Costco. And I remember John brought some from the bin, like at Co-op, and yours are so big and fluffy and so good. And mine are these little dried things. And I thought, John, it doesn't mind spending a little more money for that, but I'm way too cheap.
It's all I buy. No quote.
But we can keep it within a budget. We probably want to stay away from those processed meats and cheeses and those kind of things and just use real food. We can buy in bulk. That saves money. A lot of you know I'm a big Winco shopper. So I get everything in bulk at Winco, and it is so considerably cheaper than other stores. Big box stores might have good deals. Like once a month I'll go to Costco and get things that are cheaper there. I mean, I do the math on all of them, decide where I'm going to buy. When you do cook, plan to have some leftovers or planned overs so that you can now repurpose those. So when you're cooking rice or beans, make extra. When you're making soup, make extra because it'll freeze. When you cook more from scratch, as opposed to buying things that are already cut up for you or prepared for you, you'll save money. It does take time. It costs you time is what it costs you. It's easier for me to say that now that I'm retired. Yeah, I'll just take a little more time. Farmers markets can be a good price, but not always. But you will see what's in season. And sometimes they'll have some good deals. So I have a few farmers that I know are going to be a better deal than others when I go to my farmers market. CSAs are those community supported agriculture where you buy a box. It's a subscription from a farm, and they will send it to you once a week, once a month, whatever you choose. And then you'll get what's on the farm. So you're really helping out the farm and kind of making a deal with them, and they're going to send you whatever they have. I don't do this now. Now I do this thing called Imperfect Foods, which I'll tell you about. But when I did the CSAs, I never had more greens in my life in the winter.
Some of things also let you, like if you volunteer at the farm, once or twice a week, you get the free membership or a discounted membership for the month.
That's a great idea.
If you have time and want to do it.
Yeah, so volunteer at the farm and you might get a better deal. You're right. So be careful about the convenience foods because those are always more expensive. Eat at home more. It's so expensive to eat out. Now, even fast food. And I can't remember if I ranted to you all about this last time, but we were on a trip recently and I will go to McDonald's for their iced tea, which used to be $1, but it no longer is. But I looked up on the board while I was waiting for my iced tea, and like a burger was like $10. When did that happen? So no longer is fast food cheap. I mean, and we already know, like you said, it's, you know, it's not good for us and we buy it because it's cheaper, but now it's not cheap. So we don't really have that excuse anymore. Start a garden because then you'll get some things. And if you're not a great gardener, start with greens and start in the winter because they grow crazy and you do nothing to them. And I like this local gal, Plant-Based on a Budget. You can go to her website. She's got a lot of good ideas about saving money. So I really like her, and she's from this area. Now, going green also can help our planet because, if you haven't heard it already, what we use for plant-based crops, the land we use, is much less than what we have to use for meat and dairy. So we're going to save a lot of money, and with 82% of plant-based foods in our carts and 18% of meat and dairy in our carts. So what's down here is what globally calories produce. So 80% of our calories come from plants, 18% from meat and dairy, but we take up 77% of our land for it. That's what that means. I see now I put my glasses on. Also, so much water. We want to save water. We want to help our environment. You'll hear this again when we get to April and we're into, you know, our good for the environment month. Look how much water it takes to make beef. 1 pound of food. 1 pound of beef is 1,800 gallons of water compared to vegetables, 39 gallons. Now, nuts can be a lot too, so be careful about that. What about greenhouse gas? So when we go green, when we eat more whole plant foods, then we're going to help with our emissions, our carbon footprint. So I added this note later. What did I add? Total emissions, yellow green is production, turquoise is other emissions, like what it costs just to process that food, transport it, and waste disposal. So the production is the yellow. So look at how much lamb is, so much. Compared to our lentils, hardly any. So we have less of a carbon footprint the more plant-based and more at the bottom that we eat. Now, Meatless Mondays, I'm a big promoter of Meatless Mondays because especially for people who do eat, you know, the standard American diet, they could probably give up meat for one day. My husband does it and I hear about it all day when he does, but he does it. And if you eat one less burger a week, it's like taking your car off the road for 320 miles. Or line drying your clothes. I don't know if people still do that, but if you're a 4-person family and you skip meat and cheese just one day a week, it's like taking your car off the road for 5 weeks. Oh my gosh. Another 4-person family skips steak once a week. It's like taking the car off the road for nearly 3 months. And if everyone in the US ate no meat or cheese just one day a week, and we all did it, if we got everyone on board, it would be like not driving for 91 billion miles. I mean, that's a lot of miles. Or taking 7 million cars off the road. So Meatless Monday is really, has anybody practiced Meatless Monday? Anybody who's not whole food plant-based?
I do Fridays.
You do Meatless Friday? Oh, well, see, the Catholic Church really had it going on. You're right.
You eat that for how long? That's burger a week. So how much?
To get that impact, I don't know, they don't really tell you the fine print of that. But I don't think it could just be one day. It would have to be a period of time. I'll have to look into that deeper and see. That's a good question, though. Okay, so my little recipe today, how was it? I didn't love it. Was it okay? It wasn't my favorite really when I cooked it last night. I hadn't really realized, and I'm not sure how I missed this, that it was a curry and they were trying not to use coconut milk. So it just used plant-based milk, which is fine. But I don't know, I just hadn't really thought about it that way when I was cooking. I thought, this does not taste great. I left out the chili because I know we have some people who don't like a lot of spice, but it had just lots of cruciferous things in it. It was a good way to use my collards. And then we also threw in some cilantro, and this was a forks over knives recipe with John and I, always have debates about that because they're not always the greatest recipes. But I knew one thing, this was my first time I did it. And one thing I know I did is I overcooked the cauliflower, which I should not have done. And I added, when I got here today, a few little drops of coconut extract to kind of make up for the no coconut milk. And it called for a little bit of cornstarch mixed with water to make it a little thicker, like your coconut milk would be. So I don't know. I don't know if it's worth making again, but I thought I'd give it a try. But it was a cancer fighter. So let's go green. So to wrap up, going green is going to make you healthier. It's going to help you stay healthy. It's going to help reduce risk of many, many things. You'll feel better. You'll look better, of course. You save the planet and you can save money. So hopefully this can help you reach all your goals. So thinking about it, I don't know if I have one more slide or not. I don't. So what would you do to include in your life extra greens? What do you want to do when you leave here today? Have extra greens. Anybody? We're very silent. What about if you just didn't have greens at home? You went and got a green. You went and bought a green. Or you went to a farmer's market to see the greens and just see what's out there. And then when you get it home, you can try one of those little ways to have our greens. Or unless you think you're just doing fine and you're getting plenty of greens. And if we're not, why? What's taken the place of the greens in our day? No one wants to share.
One thing I like about eating greens is when I go out in my garden, I can just start snacking on the stuff in the garden. I'm always
There you go. You can just nibble it straight out of the garden. I'm not sure if all of us have your skills in the garden.
my skills. In fact, a lot of the times I just have to delete and stuff because I don't grow enough of them or they don't do well enough in the garden to really make
Like to make a whole dish.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, well, that's good. So even if we just had little green remnants, we could chop them all up and make a salad or something. Yeah. Or what? Or pestos. Yeah, it's perfect for the pesto. You're right. And you know what else I discovered with greens? I saved some. I had spinach in my fridge and I was going to go on a trip. I was going to be gone for a week. And I knew that spinach wasn't going to make it. So I just threw it in the freezer in a little Ziploc. And then I used that same spinach. You wouldn't want to put in a salad or anything, but when I thought, I just threw it into recipe like scrambled tofu or soup or something. And it was totally fine. So I didn't do anything to it. I just threw it in a Ziploc, the little leaves of spinach, and that worked out fine too. So and one thing about greens too, you maybe say, okay, I'm going home, I'm going to try some greens. And then you get them and they get kind of wilty in the drawer and you haven't used them. Well, when we cook them, they wilt anyway. So it doesn't matter. You can still eat them. You're probably not going to make a salad out of them, but you can still eat them or throw them in your soup or stew or put them in the bottom of your bowl when you reheat something on top of it, just to boost the nutrition of that meal. So they don't have to be beautiful. They because they're gonna wilt anyway and cook them. So don't worry about that.
And if you're putting in smoothies, you can freeze this. Whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and throw it in whatever kinds of greens you use in your smoothie, you can just freeze it.
You're right. So if you freeze them, you can use them in your smoothie. In fact, that's exactly what I thought I would do with those ones I stuck in the freezer. But then I had a recipe that called for like a cup of spinach or something, and I just threw it in and it was fine. I was really happy to discover that because sometimes, you go away and just waste food. I hate waste. So it is the month to go green. So I'm hoping you'll go a little greener, and hopefully we'll do some maybe green stuff in 2 weeks. John and I we're bouncing around some ideas.
Send you a recipe.
Okay. All right. We'll exchange recipes. So thank you for coming today. I think there might be food left over. I don't know. I can't tell, but thanks for eating it because I don't know.
Quick question on that preparing the greens. You
Yes.
said, what about microwaving a little bit? Is that okay? That doesn't
Sure.
take away story or.
Well, microwave actually is going to destroy less. I'm surprised that he always has you boil it because boiling you lose a lot of nutrients and for 5 minutes.
Well, he's not in the kitchen.
That's true. I wonder what
Mm.
Anne says.
She goes, don't listen to that.
We'll
So
listen. Yeah, we'll bring Anne out next time. See what she has to say.
I'm not good with, storing produce. I show you my refrigeration compost.
Yeah.
But I used to see it at Sacred, now I see it at Rayleigh's, that little bag of Brussels sprouts, they're either whole or half.
I've gotten those.
Bag in 5 minutes in the microwave.
Perfect.
And I don't know how to season, so I just put lemon juice.
Uh-huh.
And then, I'll put some nutritional yeast afterwards.
Mhm.
That's what I do.
That's a great idea. So Paul's talking about he buys little bags of Brussels sprouts. They're already cleaned and everything. Do you pop a hole in the bag?
Yeah, you open it and you season it.
Uh-huh.
Tear it open, you see, then you reseal it.
Reseal it and then stick it in the microwave. That's a great way to do that. Yeah, that's fine. Excellent. And I have microwaved because I often reheat with greens in my bowl. But if I'm doing something, I didn't have greens to do it. I just microwave them for a second or a minute and they get a little soft. And then I do the rest of whatever I was going to do in my bowl. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Happy March. Happy National Nutrition Month. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Oh, we have some birthdays. Okay. When's your birthday? Oh, okay. That was Dr. Capagoda's birthday.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
famous people.
Yeah. Okay. The 14th. Okay.
Big hearts.
That's right. Oh,
Should talk about things like knives or spices that go with. As I've found with greens especially, if there's a lot of chopping,
nutmeg.
nutmeg is.
I should have said that. Okay. If you're still listening, nutmeg. Okay. Oh, hi, Dave. Okay. I'm going to stop. I'm glad you're here, Dave and Kimberly, and I'm going to sign off now. So thank you for joining us.